What's up, everyone? This is going to be a video on why Sens and Grim are still the two worst, or arguably the two worst attackers in the game of Rainbow Six Siege, and how Ubisoft can balance them and bring them back up to proper win delta form. This isn't going to be a video trying to decide which one is worse. We're not trying to uh, decipher which piece of feces is the less smelly. We're just trying to see what we can do to make these operators more fun and maybe a little bit more viable in the current meta. Now, I'm going to go over Sens first because I think Sens has a lot more potential than Grim does. I think Sens only needs like some minor balancing changes, some minor reworkings of his gadget, or their gadget, I apologize, and some other things about their kit that could really balance them out and get them up to around here. Remember, these are the win deltas for this season, earlier this season for the attackers. You can see that Grim and Sens are both very awful in terms of how much they're picked and especially how much they are performing. Sens especially is statistically the worst attacker in the game, which I think is a little bit much. I think Grim is worse than Sens, but in this case, we're going to go over what I think is wrong with Sens in particular. And so when we're trying to balance these operators, we got to remember, what are they accomplishing? What are they bringing to the team? And I think that's really the main problem with these two is that whenever you're bringing Sens or Grim, there's always an operator that can do what they do but better. Say for Sens, for instance, if you're trying to cover line of sight with his gadget, there are a million different operators that can do that better than he can. Even operators like Laz, he can see through his smoke. Sens can't see through their smoke. There's a perfect example right there. Capitao, you don't need to. There's a million different ways that you can do Sens' job, but better. If you're trying to get the jump on defenders by throwing in his gadget and maybe maneuvering around it, just play Ying. Just flash them. Just cut out the middleman. Defenders can still swing it. They can still shoot it. They can still throw C4 through it. They aren't obscured by it in any way, shape, or form. And I really think that's the worst way to play Sens, even though that's honestly all my all my clips of Sens are me throwing in his gadget and then just going hog wild, swinging people out of the smoke for some reason, and it works. But that can only work one time, if the enemy isn't completely idiotic. They're just going to swing you through the smoke. They're just going to shoot through the smoke. Or they're just going to throw C4, smoke it, blah 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 blah. Rather, when you have Ying, you're there completely flashed. If you're trying to play Sens like that, if you're trying to play Sens for post plant, you might as well just play somebody like Gridlock to obscure. She's got smokes and she has more utility and a better gun. Sens' gun is also terrible. That's another thing that I'm going to get into later. There are just too many operators that do Sens' job but better. Same with Grim. Grim is even worse, but we're going to start with Sens, like I said. So, what are the problems with Sens? Let's write it out here. Problem number one: gun bad. Sens' gun is pretty close to Jaeger's gun, but on attack with worse recoil. I'm sure I don't need to explain to you why that is awful. Second thing, bad. Why is this in bold? Bad gadget. Spelled gadget wrong, but we don't need to worry about that. Third thing, not unique. These are the things that I'm talking about that make a bad operator. And the fact that Sens and Grim were both released like this is offensive to us as players. The two worst operators in the game were released back to back after a zombie, arguably the best operator in the game. How offensive is that as an attacker? That's awful. So how can we fix these issues? I think these are the main issues that are plaguing Sens right now. And remember, I'm not trying to make Sens up here or over here or even over here. We're trying to get him up to around here, even like around where the rest of the group is. He doesn't even need to necessarily be with these guys. The better attacking operators, I would say, in the game over here. I'm just trying to get him to be up here. So how can we do that? Firstly, like I said earlier, Sens' gadget is not unique enough. It's not bringing something special to the team, to your composition. Like I said, if you need area denial, you're playing somebody else. If you need smoke, you're playing somebody else. If you need a good gun, you're playing somebody else. What exactly does he bring? Well, right now he brings a Gone 6, but, other operators do that. He brings mild hard breaching potential with the hard breaching gadget. Other people do that, but better. So what about Sens can we make that is unique and that is balanced? I think the solution to his uniqueness, and this is a rough take. I've researched this in depth. I've looked into every possible solution that we could think of, and I have concluded that something that I think would make Sens stand out and bring usefulness to a composition, to a stack, would be if his gadget masked sound. And what I mean by this is if you throw a Sens gadget, whenever you're in a position to throw a Sens gadget, you're really only throwing it at an angle. You're never throwing it right at an attacker or a defender. That wouldn't make any sense. That's like using a Symmetra, a thing in Overwatch. If you know if you know what that means, you're not really getting much out of it that way because you can't see through it, and they can't see through it either. So the best way to use it is to use it sort of like a wall, so to speak, and then play on either side. I think something that would make Sen stand out and be more useful, especially in post plant and for taking area, would be if you can't hear on the other side of the wall. I think that would make for a great gameplay loop for Sens. That makes him more covert in a way, that makes him able to push area safer, and I think it makes it more fun as well. Let me know what you guys think about that in the comments. I've only really heard this once or twice from other people. This isn't a really popular one that I have come up or that I've seen. So let me know what you guys think of that. I think that is probably the best way to rework his gadget, and it's not even a big thing. It's just a mild rework. We're not reworking him like Tachanka over here. We're not putting him in the lab like Tony Stark and remaking a suit of armor. We're just trying to make him, again, like we said, balanced. We're not trying to make him overpowered, but we're trying to make him balanced. Something to fix his gun. There you go. I fixed it right there. If Sens' gun had less horizontal recoil, it'd be a million times better. That thing shoots left and right better or worse than something that shoots left and right a lot. It's awful. Using that thing is terrible. It has a 50 drum mag, which is fine, but there's no real point because you can't control its recoil. It has gotten a lot better, but in practice, it's still not very good, in my opinion, at least. On PC, on console, it's a little bit different. But on PC, it's still pretty bad. His gun's pretty middling. I think they really need to make it not like the PDW. It doesn't need to be like a complete laser, 50 drum mag, super high fire rate. But it does need to have some pretty. I want them to have good recoil. Like I want to have like really good recoil, like Twitch horizontal recoil, like nothing. I want that thing to be a laser beam, horizontally speaking. I think that's really the only way to make his gun viable for the playstyle that we're reworking his gadget for. And then obviously his gadget masking sound, that fixes both of these problems. So I'll just copy that over. So yeah, I think that's really the best way to fix Sens. Let me know what you guys think about that in the comments. I think that's probably the best way you can go about it. I really am interested to hear about it, though. Oh boy, now we get into the big guns. Grim Boy. As you can see, Grim is pretty awful right now. He's picked a little bit less than Sens. He's winning at 2% higher somehow, but I think that's just because he's not being picked as often. But Grim is probably the worst attacker in the game. And again, let's think of the same exact reasons why Sens is bad. Grim is even worse because it's just his gadget that's making him bad. Sens does not have a bad gun. The Commando is perfectly fine the way it is. You don't need to change anything about his kit except for his gadget. I cannot spell fucking gadget today. Jesus Christ. What the fuck? God damn. That's really the only problem with Grim, in my opinion, is his gadget. Like, think about what else is stopping you from picking Grim? The only thing making me want to pick him is for everything except for his gadget. So that's really the only thing that I think that you can fix and really see some improvement in his pick rate and his win delta is with his gadget. So let's think again about, why is his gadget bad? Well, let's start thinking about it the same way we thought about Sens. What other operators can you pick that do Sens' job but better? Well, I can think of pretty much every single operator on this on this chart is better than even Sens is better than Grim at what Grim is trying to do. The whole point of shooting the bees is for intel, obviously. That's his gadget, that's what it does. But let's see, what gets you better intel than shooting bees over there? Well, let's think. How about your drone, for one? I think that might be the best way to do it. And then let's see, what can you do on your drone that you can't do with Grim? Be around a corner and not establish line of sight when you're using your gadget. That's the worst thing about Grim. You have to break out a whole extra gadget and have line of sight of wherever you're trying to shoot and get intel from, just to shoot it and have them move, and you gain nothing from it. Grim is... I saw a funny comment about it once. Grim is like... The whole point of Grim is confirming that somebody is somewhere that you already knew somewhere or somebody was. If that made sense. He doesn't give you any extra intel than you already have, and the intel that he would have given you is useless because you can't act on it yourself. You have to have other people there to do it, even if you want to make it anywhere near as viable as the devs, I guess, want it to be. You cannot do it yourself. You have to break out. But let's go this step by step. If you want to play Grim, say you're attacking, I don't know, what's the site they use this on? Rafters in Clubhouse. That's a perfect example. If you want to clear rafters in Clubhouse with Grim, this is what you want to do. You're going to either be in garage or on the garage door. You have to break out your gadget. That's a whole animation. You take it out. It's like switching to your crossbow bolt with Capital. Only a million times worse. You are shooting a launcher. You shoot it at the area that the defender is playing in. The bees shoot out. During this time, you can get swung, C4, you name it, pinged. That leaves you extremely vulnerable. And I'll say why Capital is better than this in a moment. Say the bees land. The area of the bees is minuscule. It is minuscule. Maybe like a fifth of the Capital fire and smoke bolts. Absolute minuscule area that it covers. Say they get pinged. What are they going to do? They're going to just move or swing you because you cannot act off of that intel yourself. And it does nothing. It doesn't hurt them. It pings them for, I think, as long as they stand in it, but they're just going to move. And then the bees go away. And by the time you can act out that intel, they can move back. So you've just wasted your own utility and have gained nothing from it. That is the gameplay loop with Grim right now, and it is awful. So how can we fix that? I think it's a little bit harder, and I think there are a lot of ways to go about it. And it's just saying his gadget is bad is pretty shallow of an argument. So we'll say bees don't last long. And I will say bees don't have good area. And then we'll say bees don't provide good intel because they don't. So this is what you do to fix Grim. I think it is super simple. Or actually, we'll add another problem here. Bee launcher is dangerous. Ganderous. Placed 2 syllables here. I can't type today. So here's how you fix it. It's going to be simple. Make his gadget a barrel. Like Buck. This is a pretty popular one, and I think it is a perfect idea. I love this idea. Not unique to me in any way, shape, or form, but I think it does the trick perfectly. If you have Grim's gun under his gun, Grim's gadget under his gun, like Buck's shotgun, you are lowering the amount of time that you could have a potential death from defenders swinging you when you're trying to use your utility. I don't think an attacker should almost ever be punished for trying to use their utility, especially with such a low reward, high risk gadget like Grim's is currently. Using his gadget is a huge risk and you get so little from it. It should not be like that. It should be the exact opposite. It should have high reward with high risk, or it should be low reward with low risk. That's how it goes. You can't have it either. You can't have it the other way. You can't have high risk, low reward. You can't have low risk, high reward for obvious reasons, or else you're going to end up with operators like Yana or like Sens, or Grim, I guess, is a better example. So that's what you don't want to do. Giving him his gadget under his barrel fixes both of those problems because it's still not unrisky enough because you're putting your gun away. You can't shoot while it's out. But if you switch to it, like you're switching to Buck's shotgun, it's just that much quicker of time. It's not a whole animation you have to go to. It's as simple as flicking your gun from shooting live rounds to shooting the bee rounds, just like Buck. That's my first thing. Second thing. Have the bees go around stuff. And this might sound a little weird. I'm going to say, like shield, just so if you skip through the video, you know what I'm talking about. Capital's firebolts. And I'll kind of get back to why other operators do Grim's job better. Operators like Capital His firebolts go around shields, and the area is massive, and it does damage. Think about that. The the area that you are denying with a Capital Firebolt is immensely better than with Grim because it is one deadly, it's two larger, and three, it lasts longer. So currently, there is no reason in the universe why you would pick Grim over Capital. There's no reason. Capital does it a million times better because you're getting intel. Because if someone isn't dead from where you firebolted, then it means it's clear, and if someone dies, it means that you cleared it. It lasts longer, so you can act off the intel quicker. You can switch back to your weapon and then act off the intel versus Grim, where you don't even have time to do that efficiently. And it is a larger area, and obviously larger area means larger intel, because that's more area that you have intelligence on. So how do we fix that? How do we make Grim unique in this way? Well, we're kind of getting there a little bit. We're making it so that his bees sort of propagate like Capital's bolts, and you kind of shoot them like Buck's gun. Now, how do we make it unique? How do we make it different? How do we make it stand out from these other gadgets, from these other operators? Because now he's kind of just a cross between Capital and Buck, the way we have him now. But his gadget still doesn't really provide enough to warrant bringing him. So what can we make? What changes can we make to fix that? Well, I think this is a pretty good one. Make his gadget invulnerable. Actually, no. That's not what I meant by that. Make it bulletproof. It's already bulletproof. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying when you shoot the Grim launcher, it sticks into the wall and shoots at the bees, and the bees last forever. Kind of like a Nomad jab would just stay there forever unless it's destroyed, shot. Let's make it so that you can't shoot it, because then that's already something that we have, sort of like with Nomad. Let's make it so you have to destroy it with like an impact or a C4 or something of that nature, like a Melusi Banshee. Now, a Banshee, that's not the greatest example because you have to walk near it to shoot it, but I think if you're in it, you can also shoot it. So hear me out with that. I'm not going to type all that out because that's a lot to type. I don't really feel like it. Let's count all these three things up together and see what kind of a different operator we have now. Now, we have an operator that has a buck-like barrel that shoots a bee canister that propagates bees in the same area that Capital would have, and they last forever. So if an operator is there, let's go through the same exact scenario with pushing CC rafters, garage rafters on Clubhouse. You swing it with your barrel, or let's see, you drone it first. Obviously, first of all, both of these gadgets are useless when you have drones, but we're just going to throw that out the window. But say that you drone the area and somebody's flying there. All right, well, now you have to get them out of rafters. Say there are one or something. Now you can swing it with your gadget out with your barrel so that you can quickly switch back to your gun if they swing you after you shoot the bees. You shoot the bees, R1. It spreads all the way to R2 and like the top landing of the stairs, maybe a little bit before that, where you'd be shooting it probably. Now, you have that whole area completely masked off, or completely beat off. They're standing in it, getting constantly pinged. They're standing in it, they're moving back and forth. You have the intel now. Now you switch back from your underbarrel weapon to your underbarrel gadget to your gun. Now you can react off that intel, swing off them as they're constantly being pinged. Because they're either going to stay pinged like that, or they're going to have to shoot it. And when they look away from the door to shoot it, that's when you take that intel, that's when you act off it, that's when you fire back, that's when you swing them. Boom. Perfect. Grim, completely fixed right then and there. Absolutely. There we go. Perfect. He's not busted. He's not broken. He's not over here. He's not going to be picked as much over there, but he's going to definitely be over here, say like around the Gridlock Flores. Boom. There's the two worst operators in Siege fixed. Hope you guys liked the video. Like the video if you liked it. Subscribe if you want to see more videos similar to this one. Comment your thoughts below. I want to hear what you guys have to think about this. These are both sort of like unique ideas that I've sort of come up with. I've never seen anybody kind of put it all together like I have here. Let me know if you have seen that before. I'd love to take a look at what other people have to say about it. And yeah, that's about it for the video.